What drug did you take once and thought nope, never again? I was a senior in high school when Hurricane Katrina hit. Our house got 6 feet of water, no fun. But one night my friends and I went to the gutted out house to smoke some marijuana out of a buddy's hookah. Buddy failed to inform us he had recently glued the bowl back together. Well, the crew lost composure. 2 people fell off the dock into the bayou, and everyone started panicking that they'd get hypothermia. Not gonna happen during Louisiana summer. So people leave. I drive a group to our next spot. My Pontiac's on fire is now a spaceship. My buddy riding shotgun started cackling hysterically, yelling about rattlesnakes in the road. We don't got those, and the 2 in the back were talking about magic or some sh. We couldn't make it to our destination due to freaking out, so went to hang out in a grocery store parking lot till we regained composure. 10/10ths would not smoke glue again. That reminds me, a kid in my HS band class used to breath through his trumpet for air. It's disgusting and you're not supposed to do it, and after a while he started to have seizures, and it was caused from long-term exposure to a chemical used to oil the valves. Jesus, that's pretty terrible. Crack, it was too good. I get the hype. I smoked crack for one night, and it was amazing. People ask me sometimes, and the only way to describe it is how it feels to chew 5 gum. The feeling the next morning was an unparalleled hell, much worse than after a night of regular blow. Never again. Crack is hands down my favorite drug. I love how it tastes. I love making it. Sometimes I smell something that smells just like it tastes, and I get an instant craving. But it is so destructive. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars gone in a night. Anytime I did it until I ran out of money. Haven't done it in about a decade and I never will again, but I wish I could. Sound like my ex. Said she can't even look at certain things without getting the crave. Really sucked letting someone like that go. You who you once cared for but instead fell in love with such a destructive drug and habit. Glad you made the choice and it worked out well for you. It's never worth it, and you lived it, so you know best. Wish you well. Salvia. It's a very short trip, but I felt so much physical discomfort, like my whole body was being shoved into a box, despite the fact that I was sitting in the grass with a group of friends. Apparently it's not an uncommon side effect of the drug. I felt like my body was made of sand and the air conditioner unit behind me was blowing me away piece by piece. One of the scariest experiences of my life. Had a buddy who took it while I was trip sitting. He kept falling over, and I'd prop him back up. Happened like 5 or 6 times. When he came to, he told me he thought he was pages in a book being flipped. Oxycontin. Shit was too relaxing, and didn't last long. I had knee surgery and they gave it to me for the pain. I took it for a week, and when I wasn't on it, I really wanted more. After a week of it, I never wanted to touch that again. Same for me. I was prescribed some after a pretty painful oral surgery, and the first day back at work, don't worry, it was a desk job, no heavy machinery. The pain was so bad I gave in and took one. I remember zoning out at one point, looking at the clock on my computer, and realizing I had just sat at my desk staring at the screen for 2 hours, and my mouth still hurt like a bitch. I started with 30 pills and the other 29 sat in my cabinet for years, until I finally took them into one of those expired drug collection things at a local pharmacy. I was prescribed it after getting my wisdom teeth taken out. Took them twice, just to help with the pain, so I could sleep. I woke up multiple times, because it felt like I had stopped breathing from being too relaxed. Never touched them again. Not a drug, but I was told I needed to take a fiber supplement, and went with the fiber pills. Then I went to the emergency room, because I felt like I couldn't breathe within a few minutes of taking them. Fiber pills swell up easily with water, so they can end up feeling like they are sealing your throat. I now take fiber gummies, and actually enjoy having a little treat every day. This wholesome little gem in a comment section full of hardcore drugs. Go on with your fiber gummies, you. People joke, but fiber supplements can and will f you up. They absorb water like crazy, which gets them stuck in places. Ironically, they can also cause blockages in your intestines. So you have to drink water like crazy, and take them at the exact same time, every day, ideally with food. Any less than that, and you'll be cramping all day like someone kicked you right in the kidneys. For me, meth. I did it once under the presumption that it was cocaine. It was not. I had to go to the hospital. I mean, I probably didn't have to, but at the time, I had only smoked weed. I didn't know how to deal with the increased heart rate and paranoia. For my friend, diphenhydramine. He is a really hardcore tripper and can handle inhuman amounts of psychedelic substances. But he said that the one drug he would never do again was Benadryl. He said that his experience had lots of spiders. I'm quite the psychonaut. So when I heard DPH was a thing, I of course had to try it. I did it way too many times, but the worst, absolute worst time was the last time I did it. I was in and out of consciousness, and I was having such vivid dreams. I had been Snapchatting my ex-girlfriend. I'd wake up and we were talking at the time, but not about what I thought it was, so I'd answer in some delirious manner, fall back asleep and repeat. Eventually I started to sober down, and my entire house was spinning around me, and I couldn't move. Never again. Ambien. Woke up in my underwear on my neighbor's porch. My girlfriend was having trouble sleeping, and her doctor gave her a prescription for Ambien. First couple of nights, no problem. Then I wake up one night and find her in the kitchen, all the burners on the stove turned on full. Semi-lucid, she said she wanted to make soup. I managed to get her back into bed. 2 nights after that, I wake up to find her out in the garage, in the car, engine running, wearing just a pair of knickers. Said she needed to go to Albertsons because we didn't have peanut butter. She quit taking Ambien after that. I didn't know Ambien by name, different brand name here, but I instantly knew what it was when I read the story. Brand name still knocked here, and I have a shit ton of stories since I've taken them when needed for like 15 years. I had no idea what Ambien was, had trouble sleeping due to anxiety, and friend gave me something called Stilnox. I knew very little about sleeping pills, and turns out keeping myself up instead of trying to sleep lead to some interesting experiences. Nothing extreme, but images, pictures while browsing felt alive. Paintings, especially portraits, were creepy, moving their heads, following me with their eyes. No more portraits in my flat after that experience. Ketamine. The doctor said it was safer than propofol. Yes, the stuff that killed Michael Jackson, that he used it in the army many times and it just has minor side effects. He'd inject me with it. I'd go out like a light and not remember a thing. Well, what seemed like years later, I woke up from my near-death experience with lizard god people hovering over me mumbling some foreign language. I had fell from reality into a black hole. I traveled the cosmos of the universe, transcended the planes of time, and landed back on some alien world called Earth. A few hours later I realized I was in a error and this doctor had taken me on a psychedelic trip of a lifetime. I got put to sleep as a not very religious person. I woke questioning my existence and God. Never again. Well, until I die. I was given ketamine to knock me out for dental surgery, and I guess they didn't give me enough because I woke up halfway through, able to feel everything they were doing. The dentist looked like a giant crow pecking at my teeth. They noticed I was awake and gave me more, and when I finally woke up, I screamed the entire ride home, and for 2 hours after. Just hysterical screaming. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's called dissociated anesthesia, which is a common side effect. Tetracycline. Turns out I'm allergic. Did Gob steal your doctor's notes? I know what you were trying to say. Muscle relaxants. Worst cramps I've ever had, when the drug stops working and you realize you have cramping muscles at the soles of your feet and between all your bones. My dentist gave me Vicodin and muscle relaxers after getting my wisdom teeth removed. Everything was soft, even the air. Muscle relaxers don't work, and they just made my muscles twitch for a couple hours straight. I got prescribed some of the harder after injuring my neck. At least for me, they did work. But the aftermath was so unpleasant. I took one of my ex-girlfriend's muscle relaxants once to deal with terrible neck pain. Honestly, it was an incredible experience, and it's no wonder she was much more pleasant to be around when she was taking them. Don't remember what mine was called, but it was the strongest dosage. It was for my arthritis I have in my spine. Heroin. Too good. Knew it'd get its claws in me if I did it a second time. Some people say it's like a whole body orgasm. Is that true? I wouldn't say that. If a sneeze is 5% of an orgasm for a fleeting moment, heroin is 30-50% of one for a couple of hours. Quit trying to make me do heroin. You know the famous saying, liquor before beer. Don't do heroin, Sir Alan. I'm not shooting heroin with you. We will snort heroin like mature adults. Benadryl. Took around 700 to 800 milligrams, like 25 or 30 pills, a while ago to trip. Not a good recreational drug. It's like how people who don't do drugs imagine acid to be like. I'd actually vividly see things and people that weren't there. I'd see people come in the room I was in and sit next to me on the couch, and I'd start having a conversation with them, only to blink and have them disappear. I'd get up and start filling up a cup of water, and bam, it'd be back on the couch, never having gotten up. I don't remember most of the night, but my friends said I was just in a complete different world. They had some funny stories from it though. Apparently at one point I pulled my pants down and just said "it's in my pants." Holy freaking shoot, dude. That's a lot of Benadryl, and I mean a lot. If I remember right, you can trip on half of that or less. Jesus. Check her out next time. Surprised you didn't end up in the hospital or something. He did end up in the hospital, but then he blinked and he was on his couch. The Benadryl kept corrupting his new saves. Trazodone for sure. I was in the hospital to get my heart fixed up and was having a hard time falling asleep. To this day no one is sure exactly what happened, if I was given too much or just had a bad reaction or what. But I remember laying there and thinking something wasn't right. I got up and just kinda wandered around trying to find a nurse. I was freezing, but pretty sweaty too, and couldn't really see or hear so well. And you know, that feeling when you bang your funny bone. My whole body felt like that. The weirdest part was I kept realizing, oh man, I'm in trouble, and would start to panic. But then a second later I'd sorta forget and feel so serene. I remember a nurse running towards me, but she looked like she in slow motion, like we were underwater kinda. And I knew I had something really important to tell her, but couldn't remember what it was. All I could think was how beautiful everything was, how the light was catching her hair and her sneakers squeaking across the floor sounded like a symphony. I remember smiling at her and just kinda slumping against the wall, and then everything went dark. I woke up hooked up to a bunch of monitors with a lot of worried faces standing around. My blood pressure had dropped down to nothing, and if they hadn't found me when they did, I probably would have died 6/10 experience. It was very beautiful, but they made me chug so much yellow Gatorade, and to this day, that stuff makes me gag. Edit. Glad/sad to hear I'm not alone in whack experiences. Trazodone. That being said, I'm the furthest thing from a doctor, and, as far as I understand, my outcome was pretty rare. I've met a lot of people who've benefited from Trazodone for sleep/anxiety, and what happened to me was just sort of the perfect storm of drug sensitivity and underlying blood pressure issues. So talk to a doctor. Trazodone might be right for you, or kill you. Again, IDK. My dad gave me a Dilaudid he had left over from his hip surgery because I had a sore neck. I felt an almost overwhelming sense of euphoria. I knew I could never take another one. Was in the hospital and because of being a former practicing alcoholic for many years. After an especially bad week, I gave myself acute pancreatitis and was in the worst unending pain of my life. I genuinely wanted to die rather than keep feeling that way even a second longer. One hit of Dilaudid and I felt happier and better than I could fathom. I immediately and fully understood, even in the storm of that moment, why people can absolutely ruin their lives with painkillers. Seems like you learned lessons that hospital visit. Ended up staying in the hospital for a few days, partly also due to them making sure I wasn't going to be a danger to myself, but even my stubborn self managed to see outside myself that time. Going on 3 years clean since. Xanax. Took a bar at a friend's house. All I remember was watching Game of Thrones at a friend's house. The next thing I know I'm at my apt, and it's a day later. Wasn't a bad experience for anything, it was just alright, and felt like a waste of time. Plenty of better drugs out there. That stuff is a devil. I used to like taking it before going to work. You blink an eye and your shift is over. In the meantime your coworkers are all shitting on you for being at work. Xanax is the worst for people thinking they are pulling it off. Glad I'm off that shit man. Xanax is the devil. Lol. Xanax is truly the king of I'm keeping it together. I look fine when all your coworkers are watching you struggle to stand up and walk right. I've seen the share